Brand identity and brand guidelines are clearly defined rules and standards that communicate how your brand should be represented internally and externally. Brand guidelines help businesses ensure consistency and demonstrate what the company is, what it does, and what it stands for. So think of it like a brand rulebook that centralizes the overall look and feel of your brand identity. Brand identity is controlled from within an organization and should relate to how the company wishes consumers to perceive and engage with the brand. The one mistake that most new businesses do is that they spend too much time on getting products and on trying to sell products in order to bring income rather than taking time to define their brand identity. So brand identity plays an important part in the company, both internally and externally. So on the internal side, your brand identity helps you to unify your business goals and give you and your team a sense of connectedness and purpose. Your brand is your business personality. It will be reflected in a symbolic way with your logo, your colors, your graphic style, and it will be reflected in your brand values. So the traits that characterize how you do business and how the people within your company think, feel, and behave. Externally, your brand determines how your business is perceived in the minds of your target audience. So consumers must first know that your brand exists, then they will form positive or negative opinions of it through their own interactions, and finally, arrive at both a rational and emotional values they associate with your brand. In other words, your brand exists in the mind of your customer, and it's a result of everything your business does that makes an impression on them. Once you have spent time to define your brand identity, then it requires consistency across multiple touchpoints. And the Brand Essence Wheel is a great tool to achieve this consistency. Once you define your brand essence for your business, you can use it as a ground zero for the rest of your reputation building strategy. Brand is a paradox, as it is shaped internally by the company strategy and it is shaped externally by consumer perception and experience. So in order to be successful, brands have to engender positive associations in the minds of consumer, triggering emotions and feelings. And the brand must have clear points of differences, not only in the product and services, but also at an experience level. So consumers need to be aware of the brand's existence, connect with its ethos and value, and what it has to offer. And of course, the brand offering should be relevant to the needs, aspiration, and desire of customers. So this brand identity prism works as a diagram to maybe help you understand these elements and how they relate to one another. So the key elements of this model are physique, personality, culture, relationship, self-image, and reflection. And according to this model, together, if the businesses are capable of weaving those 6 aspects, then they will build a strong brand identity that can be communicated clearly and be easily remembered and recognized. So this brand identity model places the 6 elements in relation to each other by taking into consideration their position between the business, the sender, and the consumer, the recipient, and vice versa. The areas defined between these points range from internal, like personality, culture, self-image, to external, physique, relationship, and reflection. And many paths can be drawn to join each area. And here you've got an example of Dove. Branding is the meaning of a brand. The result of its personality is also expressed as a set of visual attributes. So those symbols aim to trigger specific mental associations and signals. So those visual identity make it easier to visually identify a brand, make it easier to recall a brand from memory. So visual identity is used as brand guidelines, and the brand guideline would present a brand name, a brand logo, brand color, brand typeface and typography, and brand packaging. So in terms of visual identity, you can see that aesthetics may vary also depending to your market sector and your market level, as you can see with the examples here, from maybe sportswear to luxury brand. And as a new business, you want to differentiate yourself, but you also want to ensure you position yourself amongst your competitors. So your consumer are used to certain visual identity for certain brands, and you will not want to alienate your brand by being too apart or too far apart. So before developing your own visual identity, it's important that you observe how your competitors visually depict themselves, and then you can try creating your own brand guidelines. So there's a couple of key questions you can start asking yourself to shape this brand identity and then this brand guidelines. So how does your brand should look and feel? And I think the feeling it's very much important, because it's that emotional depth that will connect you with that will connect your business to your consumer. So this kind of emotion should really be driven about your business values. So what is really inspirational or aspirational about your business? What do you want to be known for? What will make you unique? And how should your consumer feel when looking at your brand? So you may want to mind map a list of keywords about how your brand should make you feel. Then maybe narrow it down to 3 keywords and then try to associate key colors to those keywords. What kind of fonts will go with those keywords? What kind of graphics, patterns, and texture can we associate with those keywords? So most importantly, your brand identity needs to be consistent across all media used, from internal communication to external communication. It needs to transpire from your logo all the way to the packaging. So all directors need to follow this visual identity known as brand guidelines. So for example, on this page here, you've got 2 mood boards, and they clearly show 2 different moods, 2 different feeling, 2 different visual identity. And it is clear how a company could use this identity in their communication in terms of colors, imagery types, styles, usage of logo, textures, and so on. So when we look at your your brand identity, your visual identity, your brand guidelines, it should really clearly portray the feeling and the emotion that you would like us to feel when looking at your brand, and it needs to be very aligning with, as I said, your overall aesthetics that you really want to portray to your consumer and what will appeal to your consumer. So from this video, you have been given a lot of different models to use, a lot of key questions to ask, different ways also to display this kind of visual identity. And here you've got some further reading and references that you can use to support your decision. Thank you for listening.